Okay, I just wanted to make a video about changing my oil over to Castrol Magnatech, and a huge difference. I'm not trying to sell anything here. I've had this truck for 10 years, I bought it brand new, and I've always taken it in for service. And going over to synthetics, about 50,000, 100,000 miles on the truck now, and I always used synthetic blends until I got to the higher mileage. So I went to full synthetic. They're charging me $120, $150 a pop. So I started doing my own oil changes. But typically, most of these places would put Pennzoil or Valvoline, and I never had any good luck with the Valvoline full synthetic because of the dry starts were, I mean, it's every single time. Didn't matter if I was in the cold or in the hot climates. So going over to YouTube University to see what people are switching to, and I found that a lot of people like the Castrol Magnatech. So I went over to this, and it did exactly what people were crazy about. It stopped the dry starts. When I originally put this, I put it 15% with Lucas Oil, which recommends 20 to 30%, and it took about a quart, so it's 7-quart capacity for my truck. It's a 6.2 F250, and no dry starts whatsoever. Well, it didn't matter if it was 80 degrees out or 30 degrees out, the dry starts ended. That until I was up to, I change my oil now at 50 hours or 2,000 miles, as cheap as it is to do it myself. And I get this stuff on Amazon, and they'll take your oil. O'Reilly Auto Parts, some of these places will take your oil. So it's just cheaper to do it. I don't mind doing it more often. But this time I didn't put 1 quart of the synthetic in. I just put the full 7 quarts of the Castrol in. And I still didn't have any problems. But when the truck sits too long, when I'm working on these ships and going out to sea, I can go anywhere from 2 weeks to the longest I've been gone and have this truck sit was 8 months. And then I make up for it driving around like crazy. And that's when the dry starts, when the oil just sits all the way down to the sump. So there's a way that I found to prime my engine before I started, thanks to YouTube University and the people out there. And that's what I'm going to show you next. But this oil's just been great. I mean, it really quieted down the ticks. You can see the color of it. It's like a maple syrup. And then the edge is going to be the next one I use. Is for higher temperatures. We're coming into the summer months. It's February now. And I'll be driving in the deserts of Nevada, Arizona. I'm going to give this a shot. And what I'll do is I'll add 1 quart for a total of 7 quarts, 6 quarts of this, and 1 quart of that to make 15%, and just see what happens during the summer. And there was something I wanted to talk about viscosity as well. Okay, so now about priming the engine, and I learned this from some genius on YouTube University. This is the fuel box here, the fuse box, excuse me, and you see that yellow gleaming at me. Now that's the what did the guy recommend? Some channel I watched. He said to pull the fuse out of the fuel pump and then prime it for about 5 to 10 seconds. And it should be no different from way back when Ford had cranks on the front of their trucks or the cars or the Model Ts, you know, versus the what do they call them now, starters? I don't know what the hell. That's why I go to YouTube to figure all this stuff out, man. Okay, now the next step is to crank it over without the fuel pump fuse. It's taken out. It's in my pocket. Hopefully I don't lose it. And I want to crank it over, and you can see that this gauge right here, that's the oil pressure gauge. And the way the Fords work, when you crank it over, they calibrate. So what I'll do is I'll let them calibrate first. And I drove this earlier, so it's fine. It's primed. All right, and then cranking it should give me about 200 RPMs. It's a mechanical fuel pump or oil pump. Should give me about 200 to 300 RPMs, and it should take a few seconds for that pressure to get up there. So you see the pressure's up. It's about 200 RPMs, something like that. And usually I go longer than that, but I drove around, so I don't need to prime it. But you get the idea. All right, now we're going to put that fuse back in here since I didn't lose it. All right, there it is. That's the final step. It's that simple. And I've done this a dozen times because I have my truck in the north, way up there in the cold, and I get those cold, dry starts, and so I'll prime it. And I think at 200 RPMs, cranking it, it's not really damaging compared to starting it, and it's going at 1500 RPMs, and you don't have pressure up for a few seconds, and you hear that top end rattling from you know, I got overhead cams. I don't have lifters, but it still makes the noise, and it drives me crazy. But that's as simple as that. And then the rest, you just start the truck up, and there you go. It's done. Okay, just a final thought on oil and the viscosity that I mentioned. Look at that. Oh, that looks just so good. Man, so clean. And the edge is just a shade lighter than the Magnatech. I cannot wait to use this. This could be good. But anyway, I'm sold on this product. Anyhow, my stepfather was a professor of industrial arts and automotive technology at Humboldt State University. He was quite a machinist. Not only could he teach, but he could do. And at the time, I'm almost 50 now, but I bought a truck when I was 16, a 79 Dodge pickup, and he came out to help me with it. And I was throwing any kind of oil in there because I was just in a hurry to get going. And he recommended always keeping the same viscosity that's always been in the motor, whether the manufacturer recommended it or a new mechanic builds the car and puts something different. You stick with it. And he explained it as migrating herds of animals, like cattle coming home to graze every year, that cut a trail. And they stomp on that trail, the weight, and over the years, that trail is visible and nothing can grow on it. And they use that same trail year after year after year. And he suggested that oil viscosity has its own signature, microscopic signature that leaves the same kind of trail. And so that's something I keep in mind, you know, if I put any additives like Lucas oil, because this stuff's really thick. I mean, this is like, I don't know what weight this is, like 40. You know, it is good stuff. There's a guy I follow, Project Farm on YouTube, and he does all kinds of tests with a lawnmower and this stuff, and it's really amazing. And it's a great channel, Project Farm. Check it out. But I always keep it in mind whenever I put any additives that go with my oil, because you're altering viscosity. So I don't want to get too carried away. I think a quart with 6 extra quarts makes just less than 15%. But I don't want to go any crazier than that because I don't want to alter that viscosity. So, but if anybody has any thoughts on viscosity or can explain it better, then I appreciate it in the comments. Thank you, and thanks for watching.